I met him on an app, the way everybody meets everybody now. And I did all the things you're supposed to do. I picked the place, a busy bar downtown, a Saturday night full of people. I drove myself. I told a friend where I'd be and when I'd check in. And the whole time, without really thinking about it, I was watching for one thing: the moment a date turns. The pushy question, the hand that lands where it shouldn't, the guy who gets weird when you say no. That's the danger, I thought. That's what you watch a stranger for. And I never once got it from him, which is exactly why I almost didn't get to tell this at all. He was, honestly, the best date I'd had in a year. Easy. Funny in the way that takes work to look effortless. He remembered things I'd said in passing over a week of texting. A band, a bad job, a trip I'd half mentioned once, and brought them back like he'd been thinking about them. He had a whole warm life to tell. A college a few states over, the dorm, a professor he still quoted, a job, a hometown. It all fit, it all flowed. And if I'd been a little less charmed, I might have noticed how smooth it all was. How a stranger across a first date table had no rough edges at all. Like a man who'd rehearsed being easy to like. 2 hours went by like nothing. We were a couple of drinks in, and when mine got low, he waved it off before I could reach for my wallet. His round, no arguing, "You stay, I've got it." Nice, normal, the kind of thing a good date does. And a minute later, I got up to use the bathroom, the way you do halfway through a good night, not thinking about it at all. I left a stranger alone with the table for 90 seconds. I'd done everything right all night. That was the one thing I did without thinking, and it's the only part of the night that would have mattered. When I came back and sat down, the woman at the next table caught my eye. A stranger, on her own, nothing to do with us. And she leaned over, fast and quiet, close to my ear, and she said, "Don't drink that. I watched him. He put something in your glass while you were gone." And then she sat back and looked away and picked her phone up. Done, out of it, not wanting a scene, not wanting to be part of whatever this was. 6 seconds of her whole night. She told me, and then she was gone from it. And I was sitting across from the nicest man I'd met in a year, with a full drink in front of me, that a stranger had just told me was poisoned. I kept my face still. That's the thing I'm almost proud of. Everything in me went cold and loud at once, and on the outside I just picked up my water instead and took a sip. I looked at the glass he'd bought me. Nothing, just a drink. The same amber, the same ice, nothing floating, nothing wrong you could see. And I looked at him, mid-story, warm, smiling, waiting for me to laugh at the end of it, and the two things would not fit in the same world. The man in front of me and the thing the stranger had said about him. One of them was a lie, and I realized I had no way, from the inside of that smile, to tell which. So I tested it, small. I pushed the drink a few inches away and said I was switching to water. I'd had enough. Light, casual. And I watched his face when I did it. And there it was, the smallest hitch. A flicker of something when the glass moved away from me, gone in half a second, papered right back over with charm. "You're not going to finish that? I just got it." Friendly, but he came back to that glass. Twice more in 5 minutes, easy, joking. He nudged it toward me. A man who, out of everything on that table, everything about that night, cared a strange, quiet amount about whether I drank the drink he'd bought while I was up. And that's when I stopped managing it. Because I could feel what I was doing. I was being polite, still smiling, still not wanting to be the crazy one who accuses a nice guy of something insane in the middle of a good date. That instinct to not make it weird, to give the warm man the benefit, that was the whole thing keeping me at the table. So I put it down. I looked at him and I didn't smile, and I said, plainly, in a normal voice. Someone just told me you put something in my drink. And I watched it happen. The warmth didn't turn to anger. It didn't turn to confusion or a hurt. What? Who said that? The things an innocent man's face does. It just switched off. For 1 second, there was nothing behind it at all. The easy, funny, remembering everything man gone, like a screen going dark. And something else there for a beat, flat and still and looking at me, taking a reading. Then a little laugh that didn't work, half a sound, and he was reaching for his jacket. "I'm gonna hit the bathroom," he said, and he stood up. He didn't go to the bathroom. The bathrooms were behind me, and he went the other way, straight through the crowd toward the front, toward the door, unhurried, not once looking back. He didn't defend himself. He didn't ask who'd told me, or get offended, or laugh it off and stay to prove me wrong, because none of that mattered to him. Only that it was over, and the smart thing was to be gone before it turned into anything. He walked out into the street, the way you leave a store you decided not to buy anything in. Easy, unbothered, already thinking about something else. I turned to thank the woman who'd warned me, and her table was empty too. She'd gone sometime in the last few minutes, no trace, no goodbye. The one person in that whole loud room who'd told me the truth. Out the door and back into her own night, wanting nothing to do with the rest of it. Two strangers, gone in the same 5 minutes. One who'd built an entire evening to reach my glass, and one who'd spent 6 seconds saving my life and didn't even leave me a name to say thank you with. And me, alone at a table for two, with a full drink I never touched. I reported his account that night. It was gone before I got home. Deleted, not blocked. Gone, like it had never been there. And I couldn't sleep, so I did the thing you do. I went looking for the life he'd told me. The college a few states over. The dorm, the year, the professor he'd quoted twice. And there was no one by his name. Not that year, not any year. No record of the person he'd spent 2 hours being. The job, the hometown, the band he loved, the trip he'd taken. Every single thing I could have checked, I couldn't, because none of it had ever existed. I hadn't been on a date with a man who turned out to be dangerous. I'd been on a date with nobody at all. That's the part that took the longest to sit with. All night I've been watching for the moment a real man turns bad. And there was never a real man to turn. Somebody had built a pleasant stranger. The photos, the easy laugh, the whole warm, invented life, and pointed him at me for the single purpose of sitting across a table long enough, being likable enough that I'd trust the drink he handed me. The date wasn't a thing that went wrong. The date was the wrong thing, start to finish. A costume with the buttons in exactly the right places, and I never saw the empty inside of it because I was too busy having a nice time. I still date. I'm not going to let one built stranger take that from me. But something changed in what I watch for. I used to think danger would feel wrong, that a bad person would give off something, a coldness, a pressure, and I'd catch it. He was the warmest company I'd had in months. So now I watch the person, not the story they're telling me. And I keep my own hand on my own glass, and I don't leave it. And if I do, I don't come back to it. And when a stranger is that smooth, that easy, that perfectly what I'd have ordered, a man with no rough edges anywhere, that's not the thing that relaxes me anymore. That's the thing I get careful about. The most dangerous man I ever met never raised his voice. He just wasn't anybody at all. I'm a guy, and I want to start there because it matters to how dumb I let this get. I met someone on an app, and the first date was good. Dinner, easy talk, a lot of laughing. And the whole time, the idea that I might be the one in danger never crossed my mind. Not once. That's a thing that happens to other people. Smaller people. Not me. So when the night took the turn it took, I didn't have the reflex a lot of people are raised with. The one that says, "Don't get in the car." I got in the car. And I found out 20 miles later that being a big guy doesn't matter at all when someone else is the one driving. After dinner, he offered to drive me around a little. Said there was a spot he loved, a lookout, a great view. We could keep talking. My car was back at the restaurant, so it meant a loop. He'd show me the spot and bring me back to it. And it was a first date going really well. Saying, "No thanks, just take me back to my car," felt cold. Felt like I was killing the night over nothing, being the paranoid one. He was easy and warm and I liked him. And every reason not to get in sounded, in my own head, like an insult to a nice guy. So I got in his passenger seat. The politeness did the whole thing. I never made a scary decision. I just made a rude one feel impossible. The first few minutes were fine. Still in town, streetlights, the same easy talk. Then he took us out past the edge of it. Shortcut, you'll like this way better. Onto a county road, and the lights started thinning out. Houses further apart, then hedges, then just trees in the dark between the headlights. And I clocked it, the way you clock anything a little off, and I let it go. He drove like he knew where he was going. No hesitation, no map, just out and out. I told myself a guy who loved a spot would obviously know the way to it. That was the last easy thought I had all night. The road got darker and the talk got thinner. I said light, "So where are we headed again?" And he said, "Just up here, this great spot you'll see." And we passed a turn, and then another. And the spot kept being just up here, a little further around the next one, and the next one was more trees, and no view, and no reason for a lookout to be out this deep. I don't know these roads. I'm not from here. So I couldn't have told you then that anything was wrong with the route. I just knew the view he kept promising never once showed up. So I did the normal thing. I said, easy as I could, "Hey, this is great, but I've got an early start. Mind running me back to my car?" And he didn't say no. But he didn't turn around either. Yeah, in a sec. I just want to show you this one thing first." And he kept driving, kept us pointed out. And that was the first time the night actually changed shape for me. Not a fight, not a threat, just this. I had asked to go back, out loud, plainly, and the car had kept going anyway. And then the thing landed that I still can't put down. Because over dinner, an hour earlier, he'd told me he grew up out this way. Knew all these back roads. Used to come out here as a kid, tear around these county lines. Knew them like his own street. He'd said it himself, warm, proud of it. And now, on those exact roads, he was not sure which turn. Think it's this one, no, maybe the next one. Squinting at unmarked crossings like he'd never seen them. A man lost, out loud, on the roads of his own childhood. You don't forget where you grew up. He wasn't lost, he was doing lost. After that, I stopped reading him and started reading the car. Where the door locks were, whether they were down. My phone, one bar, then no bars, out here where nothing reached. No idea what road I was on. No idea how to tell anyone where I was, because I didn't know myself. The restaurant and my own car and the last streetlight I'd seen, all of it now 20 minutes of black road behind me, and him getting quieter. Not scary quiet, worse than that. A flat little irritation every time I brought up going back. Like the asking was the rude part. Like I was the one being difficult about his nice drive. So I pushed, and I heard my own voice come out harder. "I'm serious. I need to head back. Now." and his friendliness went thin and clipped, all the warmth pressed out of it. "We're almost there. Relax." Relax. That word people use when they want you to stop noticing what you're noticing. And in that second, I understood the whole night at once. There was no spot. There was never a spot. Just up here was never a place. It was a way of saying, keep driving, that I'd agree to over and over. The view was the excuse. The driving was the thing. Every almost there had been buying road, carrying me further out, one polite mile at a time. So I stopped being polite. Up ahead there was the first light I'd seen in 10 minutes. A gas station, closed for the night, but the lot lit. A single pole of white in all that dark. And I said it flat, loud, not a question. "Pull in, I need to stop. Pull in, right here." And for a second the car didn't slow. It just kept its speed, the light coming up on us. And I put my hand on the door handle. Moving car, 60 in the dark, didn't care. And I said it again, louder, my hand on the latch where he could see it. And he pulled in, slow, annoyed, like I'd embarrassed us both. But he pulled in. I got out at the pumps, under the one bright light, and I did not get back in. I stood clear of the door and said I'd sort of ride from here, thanks, good night. Friendly-ish, the way you back slowly away from a dog you're not sure about. And he leaned across the seat toward the open door. "Come on, man, don't be weird, I'll take you back. Get in, I'll take you right back." Still selling it, still offering the ride. Even now, the one thing he wanted was me back in that seat. And I said no, plainly. And I stepped back into the light where the one camera on the whole dark road was. He sat there a moment with the door hanging open. Not angry now, just still, recalculating. Then he reached over, pulled the door shut, and drove out of the lot. And he didn't go back toward town. He went the other way, deeper out, the direction we'd been headed the whole time. Away from the restaurant, away from my car, away from every light, onto the road that led to the spot that didn't exist. I stood at a closed gas station a long way from anywhere and called a friend to come get me, and I watched his taillights go, and they did not turn around. Wherever he'd been taking me, he was still going there, just without me in the car. His profile was gone by morning. I had a first name, which was probably not his, and a face I was already having trouble picturing. I tried to think about reporting it, and I ran into the same wall every time. Report what? A guy took me on a date, offered me a ride, and I asked to get out and he let me out. No plate I caught in the dark, no real name, an account that didn't exist anymore. Nothing happened on paper. A drive happened. I got out of a car. There is no form for the night I actually had, which was the closest I've ever come to not having any more of them. I keep coming back to the roads, because that's the thing that proves it to me, the thing I can hold. A man does not get lost where he grew up. He performed being lost, mile after mile, so that I don't know these roads could be true for me and never for him. The great spot was a performance. The wrong turns were a performance. The only honest thing in that whole car was a direction, always further from the lights, never one single time back toward them. He knew exactly where he was going. He just needed me to think that neither of us did, right up until it was too dark and too far to matter whether I did. I still date. I still meet people off the apps, and most of them are just people. But I don't get in the car anymore, not on a first date, not my car with them, not their car with me. I meet in the middle, somewhere with people, and I keep my own keys in my own pocket. And when it's over, I leave under my own wheels, and I watch to see if anybody follows. Because I understand now what I traded away that night, the second I got in his passenger seat to be nice. A car is the one room where the other person owns the door. They pick the direction, they pick the speed, They pick where it stops. I didn't understand that until I was already 20 miles inside it, on a road a stranger only pretended not to know. I never met him. That's the part people don't understand when I tell it. Nothing happened. We never even ended up in the same room. And it's still the closest I think I've ever come. I met him on an app and we talked for weeks. Good weeks, real ones. I liked him. I want to be honest about that because it's the whole engine of it. I thought the danger in online dating was the first meeting, the stranger, the where, the who. So I'd planned for that. I was ready for that. What I wasn't ready for was that the danger wasn't the meeting I'd planned. It was the one he tried to make me not plan at all. The talking was mostly late. He was a night person, or said he was, and my best messages from him always came after 11. Long, funny, warm. The kind that make a phone glow feel like a person in the room. Just the two of us awake while the whole city slept. It felt close. It felt like something. And I didn't notice then that late was becoming the water we lived in, that every good conversation we had, without one exception, happened after dark. I thought that was intimacy. I thought the night was ours. I didn't think of it as a habit somebody might be building on purpose. We kept almost meeting. I'd float a plan, coffee that Saturday, a place I liked downtown, an afternoon. And he was never cold about it, never a no. He'd be warm, into it. Yeah, we should absolutely do that. And then it would just drift. The Saturday would come and go with a sweet message and no meeting in it. The place I'd named would never quite get confirmed. Every plan I offered was a real plan. A day, a time, a public spot on my terms. And every one of them dissolved, gently, into another warm night of talking and no date on any calendar. I read it as shy, as busy, as a man who liked the talking too much to rush it. Then it was a Tuesday, near 9 at night, and it was raining hard. And my phone lit up. Come meet me, right now. A bakery across town, one of those late-night places open till midnight. Not a plan. Not, are you free this week? Come now. I'm here. Come. After weeks of every real plan slipping away into nothing, suddenly there was one, and it was this. Tonight, this second, his idea. A place I hadn't picked, on the far side of the city, in the rain, at an hour when everyone I knew was already asleep. And I need to be honest because this is the part that still scares me the most. I almost went. I wanted to go. It was raining, and I was lonely, and I liked him. And here he finally was, wanting to see me so badly he couldn't wait. And that felt romantic. It felt like being chosen. I checked the bakery, and it was real. Open, warm light, a real place with a real name. So I got my shoes. I was standing in my hallway with my shoes half on and my keys in my hand, my thumb already over on my way, and everything in me that was tired of being alone was leaning toward that door. And something snagged. A rule I had, an old boring one, half from my mother and half from a friend, so worn in I don't even remember learning it. The first time you meet someone, it's planned, and it's public, and it's daytime, and it's a place you chose. Or it doesn't happen. And I stood there in the hallway, and I actually checked this against it, and it failed every single part. It wasn't planned, it was now. It wasn't my place, it was his. It wasn't daytime, it was 9 at night in the rain. And it was an hour and a spot that not one person who loved me would have any reason to know I'd gone to. So I took my shoes back off and I wrote the boring thing. Not tonight, but let's actually do it this weekend. Daytime, I'll pick a spot. Warm, real, a counter offer any normal person takes without a thought. Because if you just want to see someone, this weekend is good news. I was still half expecting a, yeah, of course, Saturday then. The easy yes of a man who liked me and would obviously rather see me safely than not at all. That's not what I got. He pushed, gently at first. Why not now? I'm already here, it's just a coffee. Then a little more. Come on, it's just a pastry, don't overthink it. And then the one that put the cold straight down my back. Does it really matter where? And I looked at that line for a long time, because every push, every single one, was aimed at the exact same thing. Not at seeing me sooner, not at the weekend I'd offered which he never once picked up, at getting me out, tonight, to a place I hadn't planned, that nobody knew about. Every word he spent was spent on the where and the when. None of it, I realized, was ever spent on me. So I held. This weekend, daytime, my pick, or let's leave it. Warm, but I didn't move an inch. And the pushing stopped. Not with anger, not with a, fine, you're paranoid, not even with the, okay, this weekend then, I still stupidly half expected. It just stopped. The three dots came up once and sat there and went away. And that was the last thing that ever came from him. He went quiet, and he stayed quiet. The man who'd texted me every night for weeks, warm and funny, and there, from the second I said, not like this, simply gone. No weekend plan. No, sorry, got weird, let's start over. No apology, no goodbye, no last word. The conversation I'd been living inside for a month ended in the middle of a sentence, the exact instant I wouldn't come to an unplanned place in the dark. Weeks of a person, switched off like I'd failed a test I didn't know I'd been sitting. And that silence is where the whole thing turned over in me. Because a man who wanted me takes the weekend. A man who liked me says, great, Saturday, your pick, I'll be there, and is glad to. This one had no use for the weekend. He had no use for me on safe terms, in daylight, where people were. He only had a use for one specific kind of meeting, sudden and late, and somewhere I hadn't chosen that no one knew I'd gone to. And the second I offered him everything except that, he was done. Not disappointed, done. Because it was never me he was talking to for a month. It was that. The talking was just what it cost to get to the ask. I went back and read all of it, top to bottom, weeks of it. And the shape was there the whole time, in plain sight, once I knew to see it. Every meeting he ever floated had the same three things in it. Soon, flexible, just us. Never a plan I could actually keep. Never a place with other people in it. Never a time anyone would clock me leaving for. The drifting, all those dissolved Saturdays, that wasn't a shy man being slow. It was a sort. He was warm and patient and funny for exactly as long as it took to arrive at one, come now, tonight, and that ask was the whole point of all of it, the test. And my boring old rule was the wrong answer. I failed it by being a woman who plans. And failing it is the only reason I'm the one telling this. The account was gone within a few days. Deleted, the way the whole month deleted with it. A first name I had no reason to trust, and a face and a few photos I could never once verify. And nothing to do with any of it. A man I never met asked me to come get a pastry, and then he stopped texting me. That's not a crime. That's not even a story, anywhere except inside me. There was no name to give anyone. There was no meeting to describe, because the whole point of him was that the meeting never happened. And here's the part I can't close, the part that stays. I was one word from finding out what that bakery was really for. One, on my way. and I will never know what it was. Whether he was there or somewhere between there and my door, or never near the bakery at all. I didn't get an answer that night. I got to not need one. But somewhere the same warm patience is being spent right now, tonight, on somebody else. The same weeks of good talking, the same slipped plans, pointed at the same single sudden ask, in the rain, at 9 at night. And whether the person on the other end of it happens to have an old, boring rule of her own, I'll never know that either. I still talk to people online. I didn't let it take that from me. But I have one rule now, and I don't apologize for it, and I don't bend it. Not for a good night, not for a lonely one. Not for the sweetest stranger who ever swore he couldn't wait one more day to see me. The first time is planned, in public, in daytime, and I pick the place. Or it doesn't happen. Because I learned the one thing that sorts the real ones from the rest, and it's the simplest thing in the world. The person who actually wants you is always happy to wait for the weekend. Only the other kind needs it to be tonight. The right one is glad to be expected, and let's never meet. 3 first dates. A bar where the man across the table had built himself for the night, right down to the college he never went to. A car whose driver got lost on the roads he grew up on. And a bakery in the rain that a stranger needed her to come to right now, tonight, before she had a chance to think. None of them forced anything. None of them had to. Each one was already put together, in advance, and aimed at exactly one person. The date wasn't where it started to go wrong. The date was the thing that had been arranged. So before you close the tab, sit with the quiet question. Of those 3, the man who was never real, the drive that had no spot, the meeting that couldn't wait until morning, which one would have worked on you? Tell me in the comments. Subscribe so the next one reaches you before the setup does. And the next time someone you met on a screen wants to meet a little sooner, a little later, a little more on their terms than yours, remember that the sweetest ones are sometimes the most carefully arranged. The right person is glad to be planned. Watch the one who needs it to be right now.